Hello possums, welcome back to Creep Designs by Twitch. So what are we working on today? So you might remember seeing this in a reel that I did recently that's on Instagram and TikTok. So for those who don't know, I have been watching this piece on Facebook Marketplace for ages, and it started off at $99 and it eventually got down to $25, which I felt was far more reasonable for this. So let's do a tour. Looks like this is a project that someone started and just didn't finish. It looks like it might have been spray painted. You can tell by you can't really see it, but everything has been, it's all been painted. I don't get this. I really don't understand this. It's a mess, and it looks like it's not just black paint. It looks like the handles have been left on and sprayed and then taped up and then sprayed around, and it's gross. The back of it and the sides, you can't really tell, but they are silver. It's been sprayed or painted silver. Don't know what's going on with the bottoms, but they're like brown. There is a nice kind of greeny colour underneath as well. The two handles on the top drawers don't match the rest, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping to use the handles, but I might have to take those off and use them on something else. It did have metal casters on it as well. Hang on, I'll see if I can find it. No, I must have just piffed those because, literally, they were brass casters with ceramic wheels on them. Really nice casters if they had been looked after, but they were all rusted out. When I was helping Sebastian take this off the back of the ute, the casters just kind of came off in his hand. Alright, so sorry about that. A customer turned up to pick up some stuff, and I had to go and run a few errands that I wasn't planning on doing today. Before we get any further into this, I also want to add that I'm hoping that this video will be part of the Eco Challenge. Eco Challenge. Give me a sec. The Eco-Friendly Flipping Challenge. I mean, no offense to anyone involved. I have just really got a horrible memory. But anyway, the The Eco-Friendly Flipping Challenge is hosted by Marissa over at The Misflips. You probably know of her. She's amazing and does amazing work, and this is her first challenge that she's hosting. So even if my video doesn't end up being part of the challenge, it all depends on whether I get it done on time. Even if it doesn't end up being part of the challenge, please go over and support everyone who is in the challenge and support Marissa in hosting her first challenge. Words. Putting words together is hard. Alright, get going. So here she is. I keep referring to her as the nightmare piece, and with good reason, because it doesn't look too bad right now, but as I get more into it, you'll realise it is filthy and disgusting. So as always, I'm starting by dismantling what I can, removing what I'm not going to be using, and putting aside anything that will be going back into it. I did manage to get this part off by undoing a couple of screws from underneath, but there were a couple in there that were so deeply embedded I just couldn't get them out, so I ended up having to rip this section off, which didn't do too much damage. I'd like to keep these handles and reuse them for this piece, but I am missing 2 off the top drawer, so I have to work out what I'm going to do there. When it comes to handles that I take off of old pieces, rather than just throwing them in the bin, even these ones I will put aside and hold on to them because they might come in handy for another piece down the track. Alright, so I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but this is my bar carbide scraper. I got mine from Total Tools, but I'll put a link in the description for the same one you can get from Amazon. I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, why are you using a carbide scraper? Why not just, you know, smother this thing in paint stripper and scrape it all off that way and clean it up and it'll be good as gold. Or just sand it all off. But the whole purpose here is to go as eco-friendly as possible, and I figure this is probably the most eco-friendly way to remove all of this paint. And I'm going to point out, this is like 4 or 5 layers of paint, and it is thick and it is goopy in some areas. I'd say some moisture got in at some point with all the flooding we've had, but it's all coming off relatively easily. And I actually prefer not to use paint stripper wherever I can avoid it because of how much mess it makes and the cleanup process and the smell, and it's just, I don't like it. There are eco-friendly options out there for paint stripper, but I didn't have any on hand for this. I also opted to not sand it all off because I didn't want to go through a ton of sanding discs. So this is where the legs previously had casters in them, and I won't be replacing the casters. The legs are kind of rotted at the very bottom of them, so rather than filling them and them just being gross and flaky and chunky, I decided to just cut 1.5 centimeters off the bottom of each leg. I think my carbide scraper blade might be getting a bit dull. I'll have to bring it home and sharpen it, but for now I opted to swap over to my sander just to get this done. Yuck. Three solid days of scraping. I have a dead arm to start with, and she is all scraped off, but she's looking better already. I don't know why I scraped these 2 off so much on the fronts, because these 2 are going to be getting completely painted. But anyway, now that that's done, it's time to clean it. I don't want to do it. But I'm using Millie Clean Cut. This has no nasty chemical smells, so it's wonderful to use and works really well. I'm not going to show you the whole cleaning process because you've just had to deal with all of the scraping. So I'm going to get this done and then we'll get to the fun stuff. Everything is washed. It's all dry and it's time for me to give it a bit of a smooth sand. I'm not going super smooth, I'm just getting any rough edges and corners off just so I get a bit of a nicer finish on it. So when you're done with your sanding discs, when they're no longer doing much work on your electric sander, don't throw the discs away. If they've still got grit on them, they're still absolutely 100% usable. and great for scuff sanding or just smooth sanding things like this. And it's a great way to make sure that they get, you know, a bit more life out of them instead of just piffing them straight in the bin. I know I said I was done with scraping, but I just wanted to take a bit more of the old finish or the damage off the top of this. I don't want it to be perfect, which is why I'm not sanding it with a power sander, but I just want to get a little bit more of that damage off before I smooth sand it. I'd like to keep as much of the old character and charm of this piece as I can without, you know, making it too shiny or anything like that. Which is why I'm not really doing a lot of power sanding. So I wanted to add a bit of bling to the front of the drawers, but without going overboard. So I'm using some Wood U Bend that I've had laying around for ages. For those who don't know, Wood U Bend is a moulding that you can add to furniture or decor or whatever else you want to add it to. It is sandable, as you can see. It is mouldable with heat, so just heating it up with a heat gun like I am here and moulding it to your piece. You can bend it around corners, curves, whichever. You can also cut pieces off it, so just heat it up a bit and slice away at it. As you can see, I'm sanding it here and getting it nice and smooth. Wood U Bend is made up of sawdust and eco-friendly products. As you'll see, I did a test run of my design on the first drawer, and before attaching it, I made a template. So now that I've got the shape that I want, I can move it aside, and you will now see why there is a crease down the middle of the template. Bloody genius, mate. Work smarter, not harder. No, I'm not going to drink that. So I'm going to be using it to do a stain on the parts that are going to be left as timber. The coffee that I'm using is this cheap stuff from Aldi. Not a good angle. Okay. So this cheap stuff from Aldi, I think it was like $4.99 for the bag. And it's organic. I figure that's good. I don't know. I don't drink this. I get my coffee from True Grit. True Grit in North Ipswich. It's cool down anyway before I use it, so I'm just going to leave that while I get on to other things. If you don't want to use unused coffee, the other thing you can do is, someone did test it out, and you can use coffee grounds from your local cafe. So, yeah, and it does work. Like, there's still enough colour in it that it still works. So, I suppose that would definitely be the more eco-friendly way to go about this. But yeah, that's what I got. So I'm going to be using Millie mineral paint in the colour Black Bear. I'll also be using it with my Uni-Pro chalk brush. This is a mineral paint with a built-in sealer and a chalk-like matte finish. It is self-leveling and foolproof. It is also non-toxic, extremely low VOC, and asthma and allergy friendly. I love the fact that I don't get any headaches when I'm using this product. I had to use a store-bought enamel paint on a project that I had to paint for someone last week, and for that entire week I had massive headaches day and night, and I just couldn't get any relief from it. It wasn't until I stopped using that enamel paint and went back to my Carts and Millie paint that the headache stopped. So if you're wondering why I painted a strip of black around the edge of the top, whilst I was scraping all of the paint off, some black paint was left in this detail all around the trim, and I liked the way it looked, so I decided to just go for it and add that extra bit of detail, and I really like how it turns out. Now that the stain has had plenty of time to cool down, as you can see, I already tested the stain on one of these drawers just to see the difference and how it would look, and I liked it. So I'm going over it again, and then I'll just do however many coats it'll take until I'm happy with how it looks. It was nice, but I wasn't super happy with the darkness of it. I wanted it darker, so I added some black bear to it and went over it twice with the black added to it to give it more of a black wash, and I was happy with it after that. Once that was all nice and well and truly dry, I gave it a quick pass over with 400 grit sandpaper just to smooth the grain down. It looks super grey here, but it's just the lighting. Alright, so now that the tops are all nice and dark and smooth, I'm going to be rolling on my top coat. I'm using Carts and Millie Satin Topcoat, and I'm using 2 Fussy Blokes rollers. These are New Zealand owned and in a nice recyclable package. It's literally just made of cardboard, and yeah, nice wooden handle, not plastic. This roller, this is a smooth roller, so to get a nice smooth finish. This roller in particular has a slight green tinge to it from rolling green paint with it, but it is nice and smooth. I have washed it about 15 times so far using Alice's Wonders brush soap. All natural ingredients and eco-friendly and so on and so forth. And the fact that I've washed this 15 times and I'm still using it to get a nice clean smooth finish is a win for me. So let's get it done. So I'm going to call myself out here and point out that I'm being super lazy by pouring my top coat on. I couldn't find any of my roller trays and couldn't find a container to pour it into, so I'm just rolling it, pouring it on and rolling it out. But it worked. Took all the hardware home with me last night to boil in some vinegar and water. What the hell is that? What is it? Alright, this is gonna seem like I'm getting sidetracked here, but I brought this thing ages ago and it's never been worn out in public, but somehow I managed to tear the sleeve on it. So I'm going to reuse it and incorporate it into this. So I'm basically decoupaging it on, and I'm using a slightly watered down mix of wood. The reason I'm watering it down is to make it easier to apply and so that I can work with it faster, but it won't dry as fast as just straight PVA glue. So this part looks kind of awkward, and that's because it was kind of awkward. But I'm basically using the iron-on method that you would ordinarily use with decoupage. Once it was all nice and dry, I just went around with my box cutter and just cut off all the excess. Once all the edges were cut, I then went through with a small brush and more glue and tidied up all the edges and brushed them all down, and then went over the whole thing with more glue. Now that the glue's all dry, I'm using some compostable brown baking paper to iron it all smooth. This also helps make sure that everything is all nice and stuck down firmly. Then I just went in with a little brush and tidied up the edges with some more black paint. I wasn't sure if I wanted to distress this piece or not, but it was looking a little bit too clean and tidy for me, so I just went around and did a little bit of light distressing around edges and anywhere that would naturally be touched or get wear and tear over time. I distressed the corners and edges of the drawers more than I did the rest of the dresser because they are more likely to get damaged over time with use. I also distressed the wood chip and mouldings a little bit just to give them a little bit of detail. Again, they are made of wood, so I'm just treating them like they are wood. Now I'm using Millie Hemp Salve to go over all of the painted areas. Hemp Salve is a natural product and of course absolutely beautiful to work with. So I'm just brushing it on and then I'll leave it for about 10 to 15 minutes and then I'll buff it off with a clean lint-free cloth. Whilst I'm at it, I'll also brush some wax onto the runners and wherever the drawers slide in basically. Alright, now to tackle the handle situation. This is my drawer full of random knobs and handles that I've collected over the years. So I was thinking of using these two black ones on the two top drawers, but I've come up with another plan. Alright, so the two full-size drawers at the bottom of the dresser will be getting the big handles back. And whilst we're here, I was going to polish these up and make them nice and shiny, but I actually really like the patina on them. So then I took the two smaller drawer pulls from the two mini drawers from the mirror and put them on the two separate top drawers, if you follow me. And of course I forgot to hit record whilst I was attaching the two round teardrop handles. But I basically attached those to the two mirror drawers. Like I already said, I wanted to keep the patina of the handles as they are, but I decided to add a little bit of Dixie Belle's gemstone mousse in the colour amber, I think that's what it's called anyway. So I'm just adding a little bit of it onto the raised details of the handles just to make them pop a little bit. So when I was pulling all of this apart, a lot of the screws that came out of it were rusted and the holes were absolutely useless to reuse again. So I did put a couple of the original screws back in where they came from, but it was more so just to line everything up again. What I did do whilst assembling it was put some new screws in and it made it a lot more sturdy. And as you can see, I got the mirror around the wrong way. It's been a hell of a long day, and as you can see, I've gone a bit nutty. There are still a couple of things I'll have to address before I can advertise it for sale, like I want to line the inside of the drawers because they're a bit ugly in there. I'd still need to paint the back of the mirror and like that whole upper part. I think that's probably it. Other than that, it just needs a bit of a wipe over, but I really want to go home. But so for now, she's all done. I still don't have a new staging wall set up after the last one came down, but whilst we're on the subject and we're talking eco-friendly, the new staging wall is going to be made out of recycled corrugated iron. So I know that this piece isn't going to be to everyone's taste or style, but you know what? I absolutely love it, and I know that someone else will love it. So let me know what you think in the comments. Whilst I can absolutely take constructive criticism, there is absolutely no need for nastiness. If you straight up hate it, go elsewhere. But please remember to like and subscribe and share, and remember to watch all the other videos in the eco-friendly flipper challenge. Huge thank you to Marissa for hosting this amazing challenge. It was great. I had fun working on this piece and I hope everyone else did. See you next time.